Hey guys, welcome back to Through Inquisitive Kids. In this video, we will be looking at the application of algebraic ideas in number theory. So a lot of the different topics we've been covering is algebra, number theory, and itinerary problems. And those different types of problems, you can actually apply their different concepts to each other. So in this lesson, we're going to just sort of explore how algebra and number theory really relate to each other. So let's start with problem 1. A factory needs to create a total of 50 of products A and B out of materials 1 and 2. So it didn't say exactly how many of A and B need to be produced. It says a total of 50. Each product A uses 9 kilograms of material 1 and 3 kilograms of material 2. Each product B uses 4 kilograms of material 1 and 10 kilograms of the other product here should be, you know what, I'll just change it here. Should be Here it should be material 2. The factory has limited resources for each material 1 and 2. It has 360 kilograms of material 1 and 290 kilograms of material 2. How many product A's and B's does it need to produce so that it does not exceed the limited resources they have, but also meets the requirements? And the requirements here mean to the first one, where it says a total of 50 products of A and B. So it says algebraic ideas. In algebra, we work with a lot of equations. And in here, we have lots of equivalent values. So A and B, we know that we have to have a total of a total of 50, right? So we can set the variables first. So how about we set the amount of product A as X and the amount of product B as 50 minus X. Right, so when we do stuff like this, one thing we really want to pay attention to when making our equations is to try to make there as less variables as can be. So the less variables, the better. And from here we can create two inequalities, right? So it doesn't always have to be equivalent, it can be just a relationship. So it can be greater, less than, greater, equal to, less than, equal to. So here we have 9x plus 4 times the difference of 50 and x, so 50 minus x, right, because that's the number of b here. It has to be less than or equal to 360. This is the limited resource. And for our next one, 3x plus 10 times 50 minus x. Really, all we're doing right now is just turning the words into their mathematical meanings. Okay, so let's simplify each of them. Well, let's call this inequality number 1, and we'll call the other one inequality number 2. So let's first simplify inequality number 1, and I'm going to scroll down so we have more space. Okay, so simplifying inequality number 1. Well, first we see the parentheses. So why don't we first remove them, and after we substitute the 4 in, we have 9x plus 200 plus 4x. And that is less than or equal to 360. Remember, 360 is a limited resource, so the maximum you have is 360 or less. Let's combine like terms. Here, this is supposed to be minus. So 9x minus 4x, we have 5x. And we can subtract 200 on both sides, which is 160. So you may or may not know about how to solve for inequalities, but they're basically like equations. So you do the same to both sides. The only thing where you have to pay attention to is if you are multiplying or dividing a negative number from both sides, the thing changes. So if over here this was negative 5x is less than or equal to 160, this is an example, and you divide a negative 5 on both sides, the sign has to change. So this would become negative negative 32. So, but the actual thing is positive 32, so don't worry about that. And now let's solve for inequality number 2. Let's simplify that. Well, inequality number 2, we just substitute this in. So we have 3x plus 500, and then we have this minus x here. We have minus 10x, minus 10x. So that is less than or equal to 290. Now we can simplify even further. So let's combine like terms. So we have 500 minus 7x is less than or equal to 290. In that, even further simplified, we have x is greater than or equal to 30. So now what we have is, let's first combine these two. So x is less than or equal to 32, but it has to be greater or equal to than 30. And we know it has to be a natural number because it doesn't make sense to have a fractional part for x. So x has to be greater or equal to than 30, less than or equal to than 32. So now everything is much clearer. X can be 30, 31, or 32. So it can be actually all of these answers. So well, let's do A and B, right? So X represents A and B represents, and 50 minus X represents B. So A can be 30, 31, 32. And right now I'm writing it this way, you separating them from commas. And you probably understand what I'm writing, but you should not use this type of abbreviated sort of handwriting or if you're doing it on an actual test or competition, because that will not be accepted and you will just be marked wrong. Okay, so you just have to really answer it with a whole sentence. Right now I'm just being lazy, so that's why I am allowing myself to do this. So our final answer would be this.